So he said bye, and I say hi. I have bumpers today. I'm a walker, so if I fall off the light, you can raise your hand and do like, go back, please help me. So thank you for coming at such a late hour. I'm very happy to see that the room is actually pretty crowded. So you already know my name. So I'm going to ask 3 questions, and I want to see hands. Who here is working 100% with monolithic architectures? Few hands, yes. Who here is working with 100% microservices architectures? And what about a hybrid of those 2 models? Yeah, that's the majority. So we are on track. So, okay, let me lay out the problem. We are talking about APIs and how they help us to enhance our business and make us available to the world. So we're okay. The benefits of using APIs, which are application programming interfaces, for those who don't know, it's something that you put in front of your backend to show it to the world and put it more accessible to everybody, is that they simplify the application development and they can scale up. They can be scaling up. So then they're essential for distributed applications. They are very accessible to diverse type of application clients, say mobile, Internet of Things, B2B connections, without the need of having a front end in most cases, or you have your own front end or third-party front end, also from batch applications. And the better thing is that if you are doing a transition between a legacy system to a more modern applications, like you have a monolith, maybe you can if you're just in Java, you can open the servlets and start accepting requests without the need of the request going through the front end from one single point. So that's good. And you can also migrate in between protocols. Let's say you are using SOAP and you're going to REST, you can build a wrapper in front of it. But of course, nothing is perfect because once I said before, accessible to diverse application types. And yes, I mean, the ones you know that are connecting to your APIs, but also uninvited guests that may be doing like a wide range of shenanigans, you know. So you have this. This is the top 10 of API risks from 2023. I think it will be renewed soon-ish enough. This is a top 10, but it doesn't mean that there are any less important. Hence, for who knows the OWASP project here? Nice, a good ratio. I'm not going to explain it, so I can skip that. I need the time. So, but you have a QR code if you want to learn more about this list and the OWASP project. The ones I'm actually marking are like on the top tier, you have 4 things that mean that someone hasn't done this job in authenticating the source of the request or trying to seek into what if they're ultimately authorized into actually performing the operations, the backend. And the last, I like to reference that because that happens a lot. We are not only being consumed, we are also consuming APIs from third parties. We need information and operations from others. So we are fully integrated in this world. So what happens when we don't address API security from the start? The 0-day loop of hell. Because the continuous delivery is utopia. Of course, because when we are doing the findings, when we are in the QA tests, yeah, something has been wrong, you know, and we had to start again, or we had to apply patches, and yeah, the deployment that gets push. Of course, security teams are like, it seems like we live on Mars. Actually, we are from planet Earth as well, and I'm a developer myself. I'm a security person, but I have been a developer. I only have plugins, extra plugins, but yeah, we are from the same place. But we feel the pressure that we are a bottleneck to scalability. It's like, you don't let me deliver my code. Yes, but your code is, it has a lot of technical depth. And we are going to have a serious problem if that reach the production environment and we get breached. So, of course, we are also being pressured for the other side because we live in a context where there is a zero-day vulnerability window when there are also vulnerabilities that have been discovered by, of course, attackers, and we don't even know that they exist yet, and there's no patch for them, so we don't know where are we getting to when we push our code to production. So the minute we put it there, it starts to get obsolete. So, okay, who am I? You know my name, but what I do, I'm a security architect. My focus is more on application and product security and also third-party integrations. And I also work a lot with development teams to help them to go through all the stages of the design and development and testing and deployment and after maintenance. And also, I like to solve problems. That's why I'm there. Before they happen, if possible. I'm also a proud music addict. Before I had a band, so if you don't like my talk, I can still sing you a song. I'm also an amateur rock climber. This is where I go all weekends to debug and to stop thinking because I'm also an overthinker professionally. That's why I love my job as well. It helps me do that in a safe environment-ish. And this talk keeps changing, keeps morphing every time I give them. So imagine what is my head looks like. So, okay, let me go to the defense in that concept, which I like to name as the onion strategy, because I like to think that we should add as many layers as possible to help make a robust product before deploying it to the production environment. And then, even when we are there, we can keep growing it and growing it and growing it, because in this case, redundancy is a good thing. So this is what an overview of how a defensive that layer system would look like. For me, a simplified version, of course. I'm not going to put every toy in the market, but there are a lot, trust me. So at the top, you have where we put our applications, the static content or package applications that go through the devices. We got the CDN at the left. Maybe we control the narrative and it's our applications, and we did our homework really good, and it doesn't have any vulnerability or nothing to be discovered yet. Sometimes we don't control the narrative, and it's third-party applications that are being pushed there. Then you have at the right side, you have the application stores. They do have a lot of controls, CDNs and app stores, but again, there are applications that come with vulnerabilities, and they might be consuming your services, or your own application might be a little bit flawed. So be careful with that, with what you push there or what you consume or download from there. And then in the middle, we have the third parties which integrate. This is mostly business-to-business communication. I like to put that certificate there because this is my favorite credential when you are talking to other business. This machine-to-machine communication directly. And then you have the Internet of Things, because now even a toaster can execute an API that is connected to the internet. So then you have one of our best friends, which is the web application firewall, that it stops a lot of first strikes to our system. It does a very, very good job. It has a very wide variety of functionality, but it is like a general code in front of all our applications. So it's the first responder, okay? Then we have the API management platform, which I'm going to talk about later, because this is the subject of our talk today. And then you have your fellow network firewall that has other capabilities that is controlling more like level 3 or 4 of the architecture. And then you have your backend applications where you can add other tools and, of course, controls in the code, because you should never stop adding more controls. And then you have the crown jewels, which is the storage, where you can encrypt at rest, and you should do other additional controls. And then at the sides, we have other two of our best friends, which are the observability tools. And as you see, the observability tools are depicted all across the line, because you need to keep tracing the codes from the moment they reach the outer edge and enter through the firewall, through the web application firewall, until they get to the data. And if you are doing the other way around, you have to trace the code outwards again. And then at this side, we have the authentication and authorization tools, whatever you may use. You can have an identity provider, you can have an authorization server, you can have whatever things that are working to authenticate the requester, the consumers. So, but okay, who here knows actually what is a web application firewall? 1, 2, 3, some hands, okay? The next slide is not wasted. But what is a web application firewall? Okay, too long didn't read, is the primary shield, as I said, between the web application and the internet. It's the door. Hello, it's the doorman. The big doorman is a very big one. It stands on layer 7 of the OSI model. I have a QR code here, and I have my slides uploaded. So if you need to know more about the OSI level, you have a QR code for that. I cannot get into that. But layer 7 is like the outer part, okay? The surface of our system. Okay, it protects the servers by filtering, monitoring, and blocking the HTTP and HTTPS traffic if it detects that is a malicious one. So also helps prevent attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, etc. And bonus, a lot of WAFs come with out-of-the-box OWASP top 10 mitigation capabilities. There's also an extended version of the WAFs that is the WAAP WAP that incorporates API protection as well. So here you are. You have extended information if you want it. But, okay, you say, I have the WAF. Why do I need an API management platform? Because will it keep it safe as for everything? No. So, no, maybe not. And even less if you are dealing with a lot of APIs. If you are a big company, that's mostly the case. So when it comes to granularity, because the WAF, it's preventing it's defending us in bulk. You can have wider rate limiting, but the consumer quota and the singular rate limit of our APIs, how much a one single microservice or monolith application can endure, is not one size fits all. You have different requirements for each of your applications. Of course, authentication and pre-authorization, you're not going to perform it that. And if you are using API management platforms, you can do some of these steps. Not all, but some of this. The payload validation, WAF, has these capabilities as well, but what kind of payload is your service waiting for, expecting? Are you expecting a JSON? Are you expecting XML? What size? What schema? Are you expecting just parameters? So the WAF, you shouldn't burden the WAF with these configurations, and it slows down. So attribute-based allow list fine-tuning, because you might be letting a certain range of IPs in, but what are the APIs they can consume, actually? You can do this with having the API management platforms. And then the WAFs have these open-close settings that, depending on how you configure it, if something fails, they can leave you without any protection. And you're lucky if your backend, and maybe your legacy code is doing the job on controlling something else, or they can shut down the request. It depends how you configure it. So what are the API management platforms? I've been talking for like 15 minutes now. So there are a centralized entry point that manage routes and secures an API traffic. This is the API gateway capability that a lot of these platforms bring out of the box. Not every platform brings it, but the vast majority does. They have customizable rules and protocols to protect the APIs from unauthorized access and from misuse. They have an interface for developers, so we can discover our APIs, we can document our APIs, we can test them, and before exposing them to our consumers. Of course, they have monitoring and performance traffic analysis capabilities as well, which is good. You can plug them to your observability tools and start tracing the cause and then take decisions based on what is happening and also detect any possible incident that is happening. And of course, they have the end-to-end API lifecycle management. So you can control the versioning, you can control when to deprecate one, when you need to apply circuit breakers, or you have to decommise one, whatever. So we have all these products. I could make a demo about one of these, but I think there is one for each budget and use case, and some of them include the API gateway, some of them not, and some of them include the developer portals, and some of them not. So, and there's even one that is Kong that also incorporates service mesh capabilities. So you have from all flavors, sizes, open source, closed source, whatever suits your use case. So I encourage you to go dive and search what fits best for your use case. So let's go to some ways that we can use these platforms for. So I'm going to use as an example what is happening here, which is the conference, because we know what it's all about. And we are going to talk about these, particularly these three kinds of risks that our APIs are exposed to, which is the broken authentication, the broken function level authorization. This is potentially what I can do when I have been identified, and then unsafe consumption of APIs, because I think this one is really important. So in this example, we are all the same. We are third parties. We are machines talking to machines and consuming each other's services. So, okay, now I kind of nailed the color code. I'm a speaker, so I'm green. And there are a lot of speakers as well here. And you are attendees and have the orange, and then maybe the exhibitors, I kind of went down the line, but you are with the blue. And then we have the front desk, which is the team mostly, which is the front desk, and this would play the role of our API gateway, okay? So then we have the registration, which is the authentication, and the control room, which is the observability tool, okay? So the lanes identify a consumer or a group of consumers. In the API management world, you would have them in the form of API keys, which are like a string, and its manual rotation is not a credential, so please don't take it as a credential, but it doesn't mean that you have to neglect it and put it somewhere where you like. You have to protect it as well. But it helps you, the API manager, to know what type of consumer you are and apply the controls over your type, okay? So the front desk, as I said before, is the API gateway control. It handles the authentication process and the traffic management. And then The registration is the authentication and authorization resources. The API gateway is going to, through the API proxy, is going to communicate to these authentication or authorization resources when needed to obtain the necessary permits to the consumer that is asking for a particular request. Then you have the control room, which is doing the traffic analysis. It's observing whatever is happening at that phase. We haven't even scratched the surface. Maybe we went through the web application firewall and we're still here deciding stuff. So I'm not talking about SPA integration, single page application, front end with back end and that, because that would be very long. But if you're curious about the patterns, you can also use the QR code. So let's moving on. The broken functional level authorization. In this, I think the API management platforms have capabilities to control up to 3 levels of pre-authorization and to decide if you are potentially entitled to consume a resource. So the first thing is that the badge is saying what I am, okay? I am a speaker, so I will be entitled to a certain array of operations and resources here in the conference. And this badge will represent the API key. I can either show it when I come here and say, okay, this is, or maybe what just happened yesterday after I identified myself with my credential, hello, I'm Bárbara Teruggi, and somebody said, okay, she's okay, they give me my API key. It can go whatever way you choose. So again, they should not be used as credentials because they are fixed values, they are manually rotated, so please don't neglect them. They should not be stored in plain text to the code. Please do something else with that, if either about configuration, encrypted, whatever. Cipher, do not leave it there out in the air. They are useful to track and manage the access to the backend applications because here you can attach security policies to these API keys. Okay, say like if we are entitled to go to a conference room, there is a maximum capacity of that room, so there is a quota fixed for us to occupy that room. So imagine that, and then you can apply a spike arrest because there were too many people rushing, so there would be someone regulating the entrance, so everybody enters in an orderly way. You can have a lot of tailor-made validations here with the API keys. The second level would be the accessible locations. That would mean what resources, I mean, I can go to the exhibition hall, I can go to the conference room, and I can go to the workshops. I cannot go to the private areas. Yesterday, I was with Giselle, which is another speaker, and we accidentally entered to the administration room because we mistaken it for the speaker's room. And yeah, we got invited to, hello, this is not the place, you should go up the stairs. So eventually, they identified us and they said, you are not allowed in here. So these locations would be in the API platform, would be the API proxies, which are the ones that are exposing the API resources with additional controls. This constitutes a second level of pre-authorization, and then you can define like an API product, put together a lot of API proxies, and decide which resources of each API proxy would someone be able to actually consume. So the API proxies can do also input and output validation. They can do parameter handling, message transformation policies. Remember, if you are migrating from SOAP to REST, you can do a transformation configuration here. You can also validate an input payload to see if the scheme you are waiting for JSON is the one that you are expecting, et cetera, et cetera. So the third level would be, what can I do once I get to such locations? Because in an API product, you can not only consume what resources from an API proxy you are going to expose, but also what the actions would be. So I'm a speaker. I can go to the conference room, either to attend a conference and to give a conference. But let's jump here, which is the object and the object property level will be decided that better at the API level, because I can give a conference, but which conference can I do? That is not a question for the API proxy. That's entering in business code. So I won't be able to do Andres or Paco's conference, because I would be enabled only to do my conference, but I will eventually get validated at API level. But I potentially can do a conference because I am a speaker. So, of course, the protected resources will need specific authorizations. So, to sum up this one, we have 3 levels of pre-authorization that are going to decide if the request is going to go forward to the application, to the backend, okay? The first level would be what I am a speaker, where can I go? I can go to the exhibition hall, the conference rooms, and the workshops. And the third level is what can I do once I get there? I can't do all the gray ones because they are common to everybody. Everybody has allowance to do that. But as a speaker, I get granted that give conference or give workshop functionalities as well, potentially, because I didn't submit for a workshop, so I wouldn't be entitled to do one. So that is API level. So let's move on to unsafe consumption of APIs. The challenge today was not to talk a lot, because that I gave up years ago. I still talk a lot. But it's to fit the 40 minutes mark, which I normally struggle with. So here you are consuming my conference. In this case, you are consuming a third-party service. So you should be aware of what can I do that potentially exhaust your provisions, your brain switch off, okay? So in this case, if it's 5:30 in the evening, this is the last talk along with the other one in room 3. I also wanted to attend. It was not possible. But I'm here delivering some content, and you are tired from today's. You have a lot of very cool information. Yesterday, I binge-watched like all the talks. So today, I didn't have energy and still went to some. But if you come with any kind of backup plan, I'm here talking. I can start to actually maybe start talking fast because I'm running out of time or whatever, and you start like, what is she saying? I mean, I cannot keep up. So your brain is going to switch off eventually. And this is what is going to happen. So then you're going to go home because you are tired. So, but if you can, with some shield, this would be putting these API proxies and benefits from the API platform on top, you would have a better time, because you can decide. If I start to make nonsense, you can either look at your cell phone, open your computer, go to the bathroom, stare at the nothingness, and wait until this is over, whatever. But you have options. You have options and a backup plan. So how does this translate to the API management platform? OK, so you can do 2 things. First, you can validate and sanitize the response data I mean, you are calling someone and you are receiving an input, a response. So, of course, you would like to validate the content type that is coming back, because if you were expecting a JSON and they send you an XML, no. And of course, you can also scan the response to avoid SQL injection or JavaScript injection or shell comments or whatever. You can do that. You apply the regex protection. This doesn't mean that you're not going to do it as well in your services. I'm talking about layers and layers and layers, so be redundant. This doesn't prevent you from adding more controls once you are going to the other layers. So you also can tailor-make these controls to JSON and XML protection, because you can measure the schema, the size, the elements, the depth, somehow take a sneak peek at the contents. Try not to do a lot of business logic here because it adds latency. So I recommend not to overburden the API proxy. We were talking before, not overburdening the WAF, so don't do it here. So in short, you would expect for a non-corrupted and parsable response, something that your backend is expecting in the correct format. Other controls that are also important is avoid blindly following redirections, because you might get a 3xx type of response. This is a redirection response of some sort. So you should better talk with the third party you are communicating to and ask, what are the response codes I should wait? And you will have an allow list of response codes and also an allow list of well-known locations. This prevents somebody to change the redirection URL and send you somewhere else that you don't want to go. Of course, you can control the timeout and reconnection atoms, so you can prevent a spike in the execution time, because maybe you have to keep doing other calls or other operations, and if you keep waiting for the third party to answer, maybe you are delaying the rest of the production line, okay? So, of course, you can rate limit the outbound controls. This is, you should assign quota to your first-party applications going out, because some APIs are pay-per-use, and you wouldn't want to have an incident and over-consuming third-party applications and then get a massive bill. And this could happen for a wide range of reasons. I mean, maybe somebody did like a loop in the code. It was an accident, but it happens. Or maybe somebody is attacking your servers and causing you to make these calls repeatedly, and they are doing a DDoS attack to you, and you are DDoSing attacking the third parties. But they are going to, maybe they can scale up because they have a escalation, very good configuration in that, but the build then is going to be painful. So, okay, so a final advice to wrap this all up would be another best practices to prevent API risks or whatever risk you might face in doing your applications. The authentication and the authorization should be very carefully designed. This process needs thinking, think thoroughly who is entitled to access to your resources and what they can do, and try to think of as many levels of pre-authorization and authorization as you can, so you are going to be much safer. Then API governance, you should know what you have. You should know what your assets look like, document it, what the current version is, who is consuming it. That's very important. You need to know who is consuming your APIs, because it's not only for the security part. If you are doing a breaking change and you don't know that you are causing a problem in one of your consumers, I mean, eventually that would help. this concept is you should thread model in the very beginning. That means asking what could go wrong from the design phase. When you are thinking about a new application, new API, single API, or a whole product, you should analyze the whole data flow, the whole functional flow, everything, and start thinking what could go wrong in each step of the way, and think, what are you going to do about it from the very beginning? Thus, when you start coding, you already know what to do, and you have decisions, and then you keep checking when you are testing if you have done what you are committed to do, and then when you are deploying, okay, this application looks like the one that I designed at the first, or do I have to update the documentation? And then when you are in the production environment, it's okay to reassess our applications as well. Infrastructure security, of course, that's lower level. We need to, there are some risks like security misconfigurations. We need to have a strong infrastructure security. But don't leave it to the infrastructure guys. I mean, it's an and, it's not an or. We should all collaborate in this. We are all on the same boat. Everyone should do their part. Third-party risk management is something that is happening more in top-tier levels, but it's when we are assessing our third parties and we are trying to check what their security posture is, and is they are aligned to our businesses, and we decide whether to engage or not in business with them. And we are also doing risk management ourselves, because we are assessing if we are going to perform certain operations or not, or what to do about that. So last but not least is deploy a security champions program if you don't have them on the company. And it doesn't mean, it looks like a shiny buzzword, but it's just talk between each other about the security issues that we are facing. It happens every day. We recently had the CrowdStrike incident. They said that it wasn't a security incident. It actually was, because it was a bad update and everybody went on stall. So there were a lot of production losses because of that, and it was a security tool. So there's no harm in talking about security and try to help each other. And if you have security teams in your company and you happen maybe to struggle to understand what we're talking about, just ask. We foster this conversation, because we are all the same, and we are in the same boat, and we want to have the best product out and have the best experience for our users and for ourselves eventually, because we're not going to be on call all the time. So this was all. I hope you like it, and if you have some question, I think I have 1.5 minutes.